Wagner CEO Yevgeny Prigozhin's hidden calendar indicates a decade of close links to the Kremlin. Russian President Vladimir Putin has some cleanup work to do. The head of the Wagner Group mercenary organization, Yevgeny Prigozhin, staged a coup that led to a split in Moscow, after which he could not agree to retreat. Less than 2 weeks have passed. The operation, which Prigozhin calls the March for Justice, is the biggest challenge to Putin's 23-year rule. While the immediate threat from Prigozhin seems to have passed, Putin must now come to terms with the threat posed by Prigozhin's allies in Russia's national security and the Sun's fat bureaucracy. A Russian general close to Wagner, Sergei Surovkin, deputy head of the Russian forces fighting in Ukraine, has disappeared from the public eye, and some analysts believe he was arrested. An inside look at Prigozhin's secret plan shows that Putin must do his job if he is to get rid of Wagner's potential. Prigozhin regularly schedules meetings with top Russian officials. He'll and Putin meet up or call a lot of old people. Earlier this year, Insider, along with Die Welt, Dossier Center, and Politico, learned about the Wagner Group from an anonymous group of people calling themselves the Bogatiri, or Enites. One of the documents, Prigozhin's personal calendar, shows 17,824 appointments spanning about 10 years. The original file has the extension .dba, a format associated with Palm devices that has been used in the West for years. File Center helps convert files into readable text. Neither Wagner Group spokesperson nor Putin's press secretary, Dmitry Peskov, responded to an email request for comment. While there are gaps in the calendar for Wagner's worst projects, including the 2014 invasion of Ukraine and the 2020 U.S. election, he writes in detail about Prigozhin's daily life, documenting everything from his appointments with his doctor to all his prescriptions. Food. It's also an era of Kremlin power that shows how deeply Prigozhin has penetrated Putin's circle, serving as a de facto member for years, and that the Wagnerian army has become the Kremlin's tool for Russia's expansion into Africa and the Middle East. Tools. Middle East. Relations between Prigozhin and Putin St. One of Putin's frequent destinations is the new island restaurant in St. Petersburg. Petersburg is one of the first restaurants of Prigozhin. However, the calendar did not answer Prigozhin's questions asked directly to the Russian president, despite the fact that the two were photographed together many times. Putin's name appears only twice on Prigozhin's calendar, and there is no entry for a single meeting. The first entry was an event held at Russia's Dongas military base in September 2015 and attended by Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu, whose main rival, Prigozhin, took up arms in late June to eliminate the island. The second is Putin's radio conference in Gostiny Dvor, a Moscow shopping mall, in June 2018. Looking at the calendar, it is clear that Prigozhin went directly to Putin's inner circle. Ruslan Salikov, Deputy Minister of Defense since 2012, has 75 appointments. Anton Vaino, who has been the head of Putin's office since 2016, has 73 appointments with Prigozhin. For the other 36 times, only, which means Chief of Staff, is pronounced. It's almost a victory for General Valery Gerasimov, who led Russia's first invasion of Ukraine in 2014 and now leads the expansion of the war. In the months leading up to the military coup, Gerasimov and Shoigu were repeatedly criticized by Prigozhin, calling them corrupt and inept. 33 people entered meetings or telephone conversations with Alexei Dyumin, Putin's ex-military and current governor of the Tula region. Dyumin, one of Putin's close allies, has been discredited by his relationship with Prigozhin since the coup. While Prigozhin was on his way to Moscow, Russian media speculated that Dyumin might replace Shoigu as chief of defense, and he reportedly helped negotiate an agreement in which Prigozhin would lay down his arms and leave Russia for Belarus. CNN reported that Russian General Sergei Surovikin, who is currently under house arrest for his relationship with Wagner, is an undercover member of the group, according to the same group of documents. He was given the Wagner VIP identification number M3744 and the name Matvey Kimovich. But in the calendar Prigozhin mentions him only as Surovkin. His name was mentioned 11 times in phone calls and meetings. 14 more entries for Dmitry Medvedev, who served as the president of Russia from 2008 to 2012, but some refer to appointments with his help. There is no one-on-one meeting between Prigozhin and Putin, probably due to the word president or president in several entries. One of them is the New Year's party. The names of the other two countries, Germany and South Korea, and the word president. Country names will be numbers for special places dedicated to Prigozhin and his representatives. To cover their tracks, Wagner employees often used 3- or 4-digit numbers to identify themselves and sign documents, and many of Prigozhin's meetings with Wagner Group employees were presented in this way. The assets of Prigozhin's entry calendar expires in November 2021, with the final entry to be prepared for flight clearance in April 2022. There is no evidence of what Prigozhin did in the days before Putin launched an all-out attack on Ukraine and withdrew the Wagner Group from its operations in Africa and the Middle East. During the campaign, Prigozhin emerged from obscurity to triumph, while Wagner recruited criminals, often at heavy cost, to support his warriors. By June it had expired. Prigozhin says on his Telegram channel that the Ministry of Defense is now asking the Wagner mercenaries to sign a contract with them from July 1st. Prigozhin's power was now open to Shoigu and the others he had initially hated. The power he held in the Kremlin for years seems to have disappeared. Ultimately, his request to be on Putin's agenda went unanswered.